advance their career, which I think that includes everybody in this room, that I hope some of these tidbits can be instructive to you. And I get to get a little personal here on some of this stuff, but I think it kind of gives you a sense of the culture that we've created and how I got to where I am and why we do this. So, you know, I didn't start out to be a CEO or a leader, and I don't think anyone does, but over the years, my approach has been to observe others. Not so much to have a mentor, and I'll speak about that in just a moment, but just to take the important parts of what everyone has to give and what we have to learn from everyone and take those and make them my own. So my path to leadership and to this CEO position was a little longer, and it didn't include a business background, as you'll hear and probably have heard from most of the people who have stood up here and spoken to you over the years. I was at KU. I grew up in Kansas City. I was at KU, and I decided to go to law school for two reasons. I didn't want to be in business, and I didn't want to be in sales. Today, I am, even though Chambers thinks I'm still actively practicing law and one of the best lawyers, I'm not really actively practicing law, and I'm running a big business. And I quickly learned after getting out into the real world that everybody in America is in sales. So, and I know all of you are in one way or another. So, you know, one other part of my history is I went to college on war orphans benefits. My father died as a result of a war-related illness, and you know, some people who have that experience, they dwell on the loss. And for me, I took it as a challenge to say, you know, I've got to get independence early in my life, and I was fortunate enough that the government would send me to college, and I hope to have built on that. After college, I moved to Washington, D.C., where I had the great honor and pleasure of working in the Congress while I was going to law school at Georgetown. I worked at different agencies and also in private practice, kind of soaking it all in. I wanted, at that stage of my life, I thought I wanted to be a politician. And I probably am a politician, but with a small p instead of a large P, not an elected politician today. I'm probably instructive to you all. In the mid-'70s, after law school, I returned with my wife to Kansas City. It was not a very inviting place for young professionals at that time. And, you know, we lament about Kansas City not being a great place for the young, up-and-coming, the millennials. But this has been an issue that we've had in Kansas City for quite some time that we're all trying to address in one way or the other. But it's not a recent phenomenon. And it was particularly not a very inviting place for women at that time who were in a professional career. And maybe not, and particularly those who did not have a professional degree, which my wife did not at the time. And so we returned to Kansas City after, or to Washington, D.C. after 1 year. But just as a short aside there, during that year, one of the things I did, and this will show you that this white hair is not prematurely white, it is earned. I represented the Junior Chamber of Commerce, and they admitted women. And the Kansas City one, the national organization took the convention away that we were going to have here in Kansas City, and we fought it, so that all the way to the Court of Appeals. Unfortunately, we won at the district court and lost in the Court of Appeals, if you can imagine that. And here today we're learning about same-sex marriage going through the courts, but that's how 35 or 40 years ago, those were the issues that were being fought then. And some of the people in the audience remember, but not many of you. But it, you know, it just kind of tells where the world was and how much we've changed, fortunately, since that time. So I returned to Washington, D.C., and all of these experiences, I think, informed me to where I am today and hopefully help the firm where it is. I decided, after being an advance man on a national presidential campaign, that I was finished with politics, at least on a daily basis. Now I'm involved in politics, but it's mostly either raising money or writing a check. So, I spent 4 years at the Department of Justice trying lawsuits across the country, and had a great experience. Ironically, when we decided to leave D.C. with young children, as many people do when they return to their hometown, I remember telling my wife, well, we're going to move to Kansas City and I won't have to travel very much. Well, that certainly did not appear to be the case, or turn out to be the case. I returned to a law firm for 5 years
And it turned out that